Mizell Stewart, and I'm a member of the Knight Commission on Trust, Media, and Democracy. And the Knight Commission is a group of 27 people that was convened by the Knight Foundation and the Aspen Institute. And okay, there we go. All right. The commission is a group of 27 people convened by the Knight Foundation and the Aspen Institute. We worked together for nearly 2 years to examine the issues behind the decline of trust in media and in government and to recommend solutions for reform. Tom ably laid out some of the backstory in terms of the historical decline in trust. But I want to point to the issue of trust in government, because what we've seen over this same period of time is what we like to call the weaponization of mistrust. The weaponization of mistrust in government, in saying that big government cannot be trusted, to say that media cannot be trusted. And so we're seeing these attitudes play themselves out in society. And fundamentally, we believe that trust in institutions is essential to democracy, and that holding the powerful accountable is critical to a democratic republic. And so trust in media and in government are intertwined. Some of the reasons for the loss of trust in government, when institutions perform poorly, when people have a sense that government is not meeting their needs, people lose trust in government and in institutions. And so that manifests itself in the growth in political polarization. Decline of trust in media. We've talked about the proliferation of news sources, but one very critical element is the conflation of news and opinion. I often talk about what we've seen in the cable news universe and the fact that opinion programming takes up more time than actual news reporting. And so you've got 4 hours of actual news in a day and 20 hours of people talking about the news of the day and offering their opinions. The decline of local news, another critical factor. It is less likely that people in local communities will actually say, I know a journalist and I know that person to be a good person. And then again, there's the politicized criticism of the media. But the assault on truth, which Tom alluded to, and what we are seeing coming out of the White House and out of major political institutions, it's a fundamental attack on our ability to self-govern. And so the commission looked at recommendations in 3 areas: media and journalism, technology, and citizenship, with the idea that we need to make progress in all of those areas to restore trust in the media and in democracy. And just at a very high level, our focus is to recommit to the ideals of journalism, holding the powerful accountable, and pursuing the truth, with a foundation of what we like to call radical transparency. The idea that journalists over time assume that consumers know that we operate with good intentions. Journalists assume that people know what off the record means, what on background means. People assume that we are not necessarily, journalists assume that people know that we operate ethically. We can no longer take those assumptions for granted, and we'll talk about these a little bit more. The crisis in local news is also worthy of investment and worthy of attention. How do we rebuild the economic infrastructure for local news? And thinking about it this way, is the market going to solve this problem? I would argue that the market will not. And the commission strongly recommends blended funding models and an increase in philanthropy in order to help restore capacity for local accountability journalism. Also, technology solutions as it relates to how we employ technology to make sure that diverse viewpoints are represented, that news and information across platforms and across distribution channels is clearly labeled so that readers understand where that information came from, and to prioritize diversity and to recommit to a journalism industry that reflects America. We have technology representatives on the committee, and we believe that free expression, the open internet, and inclusion are key values that should be represented in technology platforms, but also that our approach to rebuilding trust in the platforms, whether it be Facebook, Google, Twitter, be technology agnostic, giving people, for example, the opportunity to actually own their user profiles so that they have control over their personal information, to ask technology companies to actually put their responsibility to the user in becoming an information fiduciary, putting the interests, the privacy interests of users first, and also to invest in technology solutions to fight the spread of misinformation. And then finally, there's citizenship, because we believe everyone has a role to play in restoring trust in institutions. And part of the element of citizenship is restoring a sense of national service, that we're all in this together, that we revitalize civics education, and that we rededicate ourselves as a society to the ideals of holding the powerful accountable and pursuing the truth. Now I'll turn it over to Joy. Or Charlie's next. My good friend and fellow commissioner, Charlie Seitz.